Alrighty. LCE E.G.O. Ardor Blossom Star Faust is a difficult unit to make use of. Aesthetically and thematically, she's bloody fantastic. She comes from my favorite intervaller. To me, the outfit is really cool, and while there isn't exactly ponytail, well, side tails are very, very high tier as well. All that said, her whole gimmick is to burn brights, burn out, and explode, giving out a bunch of benefits by doing so. Now, that's great and all. We're in the era of chain battles, so inevitably sinners may die, and that part is of little consequence. It's just that unfortunately, she doesn't give quite as much as we'd like upon death. Rather, there's an unfortunate amount of restrictions. On death, she applies 2 burn potency on enemies, and up to 3 more burn between enemies based on self-burn. She also grants +2 E.G.O. resources for 2 of the least owned E.G.O. resources. While far better than nothing on death, we could stand to gain more. If she dies due to using her enhanced S3, we instead inflict 3 burn on all enemies and inflict up to 5 burn between them based on self-burn. Likewise, she provides 2 E.G.O. resources of the 2 least owned and grants free offense level to the substituting ally. Bit more like it, rather than a pitiful 5 burn and 4 E.G.O. resources, we at least get 8 burn, 4 E.G.O. resources, and free offense level out of it. While it's a step up, I still wish it would scale a good bit higher for her sacrifice. Anyhow, how does she even get her enhanced S3? She needs 30 self-burn, which needs a fair bit more micromanagement than you'd initially expect. S1 only grants a burn potency. While it can turbo it up as much as 11, it's no use if we lose it all afterwards anyway. Aside from that, inflicts quite a lot of burn potency and has self and enemy burn based conditionals. S2 at the very least gives us burn counts, but nothing in the way of potency. If we at least get one of these in, we can pretty much guarantee the build up towards an enhanced S3. Otherwise, it hits reasonably hard and clashes surprisingly well with its higher offensive level. It also has an unbreakable coin, and a bunch of self and enemy burn based conditionals. Base S3 grants us an immediate +7 burn and 1 count on combat starts. This 7 potency can actually take us up to the 30 needed before triggering her enhanced S3, since the skill checks before use as to whether or not we've hit 30 burn to activate that instead. The base version is quite boring, but has burn conditionals and HP conditionals for base power and coin power respectively. The enhanced S3 is where all the memes come from. Most notably the line, after using the skill, dies. This part is entirely unavoidable. Binary, death, set 1 on life to 0 kind of affair. But that's what makes it so funny to use. Effectively, we are preheating a bomb to explode by using her skills. This bomb has burn-based conditionals, HP conditionals, and is entirely unbreakable. While using this skill, she cannot drop under 1 HP, which is surprisingly useful when it counts, but otherwise matters little in the grand scheme of things. Regardless, once she explodes, she gets to trigger all the nice bonuses from her passive, as well as the skill's effects. Please do not detonate them off without the required amount of Wrath resources, or you will be sad that you lost a Sinner for an okay amount of damage and little else to speak of. Now, if for some reason we wish to prolong her life instead of exploding, the defensive skill exists. It's actually a really good evade, granting a lot of coin power on use so long as we have the burn. Of course, it also reduces the burn on her by up to 10, 5 on use, and 5 on evade, if for some reason we want to put out the flames. But realistically speaking, we're not going to get the most out of her kits unless we let her detonate. As for the rest of her passive, she's fireproof, at least in the sense that she can't fall under 1 HP due to burn, and she also gains 1 offense level per 6 burn on self the following turn. This can actually make her quite the strong clasher. There's one other important line here to be careful of though. It's actually the first line of the fueled passive. Odd that I'm covering this last. But anyhow, combat starts. If her HP is in Mertier range, and she has less than 30 burn, she'll go straight up to 30 once per encounter. If an S3 is slotted, she is going to explode. While it's a nice fallback to have, it can come as more of an annoyance if you're aiming to preserve her life instead of destroy it. If we get out of the way, we can look at implementing her. There's 2 diverging routes here. Keeping her alive and microing her burn to let her be an exceptional clashing unit, or letting her burn bright and explode with dignity. Since the latter will use her full kits, we'll be going with that. What's the deck identity then? The star is going to supernova, then who the hell is going to do the damage? Well, you see, we aren't exactly making a deck here. We're going to run a bloody restaurant. Now, I've got some experience in the hospitality industry. I've done my time at fancy Italian harborside cafes and Italian restaurantes. But you see, we're running a Chinese chicken shop. Plus, we're gonna need to hire the right staff. We're gonna need waiters. These guys need to be immaculately dressed, calm under pressure, and good at group combat if it comes to it. Huh. There's a fixer association that fits that bill entirely. Next, we're gonna need to source the meats. Tenderize it too. We're gonna need a butcher of dubious ethics. The guy over there with the big nails looks like a solid fit. Half his face looks melted off, but since he'll be back of house, the customers will never have to know. Alright, how could I forget? We'll need a proprietress to manage the crowd, and a security guard to put outside. The sink lass from the east will do, and I heard the Hay Show make the best bodyguards if you have their leashes. Regardless, we'll need an irritable individual to handle the open grill and scream when the meat is cooked, as well as a chef with a hazmat suit to work back of house with the butcher. What else was I missing? Ah, yes. Seasoning. Can't forget the seasoning. Heard the roots from this lantern thing make for an amazing dry rub. We'll be going with that. And of course, who could forget the main ingredients? The chicken. Good thing we've got 2 roosters ready for the slaughter, eh? Plus, let's introduce our Chinese takeaway chicken shop staff. First, the Lu Association fixers. As our front of house staff, they'll be on a rotating shift with one of them in backup should the need arise. Ryoshu, Rodya, and Ishmael will be the ones serving out the chicken. Ryoshu is our employee of the month. While they're only a 00, they can hit way above their weight class when required. Couple that with their access to 4th match flame, and we've got quite a solid base in any burn team. While she's rather basic in not having anything too special, in fact she's more or less just a burn status check, makes her a good indicator as to whether or not we've applied enough burn potency to get everyone else going. The conditionals max out at just 10 burn, meaning she'll be rather consistent so long as we maintain the potency. She doesn't add anything special to the service we're providing, but nonetheless, consistency is king. With that in mind, we can introduce the other 2 Lu fixers. First being Rodya. She has significantly more use on field compared to Ishmael. This is due to a Wrath Resonance passive that provides Wrath damage up, as well as burn conditional damage. Also provided is attack power up to any Lu fixers when these conditions are met. So long as everyone has at least 6 burn, all the Lus are going to get significantly stronger. Compared to Ryoshu, the conditionals max out at 12, but otherwise do not have any really strict requirements due to being an older ID. Plus, she's functionally a stat stick for us to wave around in a burn team. However, she does have some duck in her back pocket. Or they guess. Regardless, we're in the business of selling poultry. Indicant's Trial provides us healing, burn potency, and searing birdcage. The last of which is a unique status that reduces wrath resistance and inflicts bind on its victim. If we need fresh ingredients, at the very least front of house can make things easier for us in terms of dealing damage and restricting their speed. Last of consideration for backup is Lu Ishmael, so we'll be looking at her support passive. For the slowest member of our team, they'll inflict more blunt damage based on burn count on target. Bit difficult to get going at first, but with enough setup and tech, we can wrap this up reasonably quick in focused encounters, but may as well forget about it in unfocused ones. If an enemy somehow has 3 or more burn counts, yes, we're getting a little extra blip in damage. When she hits the field due to sinner deaths, she is very much a stat stick with low burn conditionals and rather decent outputs. In terms of E.G.O.s, she provides Capote and Ardor Blossom, both of which can be rather valuable to have in burn composition. With the wait staff out of the way, we can look at the proprietress. This is going to be Sinki's Dawn. She's a rather self-sufficient modern ID with some reasonably solid conditionals. Compared to the Lus, she cares more about her own speed and micromanaging her poise. Only when that poise is at a reasonable level does she then factor burn potency into her damage through her passive. But like any good proprietress, she laces around until built up, before making it the customer's problem when both her speed reaches higher and the customer is already on fire. Aside from that, her potency application is half decent, and we're not wanting for E.G.O. resources on her, outside of potentially throwing out a red sheet. That thing will be relevant later as more staff is covered, plus I'll go over its usage when we arrive at play patterns. Next, let's cover some of our ingredients. First, let's welcome the seasoning. LCE E.G.O. Lantern Yisang. He exists to be killed. Whether that be first or second, it matters not. Just that there's a proper way to kill him and a less proper way to do so. The skills are actually all quite fantastic, but they require a clash lose to get the most out of them. Since we want him to take damage, it's honestly not a bad thing to let him get hits. However, getting him hits may be a bit more difficult than expected outside of focused encounters. In unfocused encounters, he may accidentally start pulling his weight and surviving far too long. Of course, we could just not level him and make him die faster. If you make the mistake of leveling him, we don't have a way of going back right now. Thus, I'll proceed as if we had leveled him for whatever reason. We're going to want him to take clashes he has no business winning, losing them, getting hits, and then using his unbreakables to profit. His S3 is the highest priority though, as it gives him a unique status called Fairy Lure. Alternatively, the counter can work to set him up too. This makes him take significantly more damage as well as dramatically increase his aggro. Inside of a focus encounter, this all but guarantees all eyes on him. From there, you can basically just let him die. Plot in the counter so his assailant doesn't win a clash for SP, and let him expire. Once he kicks the bucket, we get 2 ego resources of 4 of the least owned. It's actually quite a lot, and of course, deal out 5 to 10 rupture potency and free counts, based on whether or not he has Fairy Lure upon expiry. Now if he dies first before the moth will also functionally double the resources she obtains for the party as well, upon exploding. This ID is majorly slept on, but can act to turbo any game plan that requires ego resources to function, especially any that require rarer resources. From there we can cover the Poultry. 2 Yo Branch H.O.s. Let's start with Rooster Sinclair. This fella is heavily slept on because he didn't quite fit into Rupture and wasn't cool enough for burn compared to the Thumb Dude and Phil Clare. Anyhow, he's a unit that gets better as he takes more damage. Since there's plenty of unbreakable coins going out these days, we can profit off of his conditionals more often. His main gimmick lies in a unique buff called Blood Flame. It enables him to reuse coins, attack with unbreakables, and of course add extra potency to all of their coins. He gets this buff easiest through his counter, since it provides 3 stacks of it. Also of note is his Clash Lose conditionals, all of which provide him 2 burn to self. Whenever he has burn on self at the end of turn, he'll gain a Blood Flame, Wrath damage up, and Gluttony damage up. Plus, if he ever manages to be set on fire, he actually starts performing better. His HP conditionals max out rather quickly. Some of them even apply to enemies' HP too. Regardless, he's a strong Berserker style ID that can act as one of our main sources of damage. As for Cockcliff, this piece of poultry will start in our backline and be subbed in first, when either Faust or Yi-Sung manage to kick the buckets. Compared to Sinclair, he needs a little more time to build up, like the other Heisho adepts. In this case, it's to build up his personal buff, Battle Blood Instincts. This gives him up to 15% more damage and 2 haste, as well as enabling his enhanced S3. Aside from that, he works around having Blood Flame and Self-Burn. He wants for 10 Self-Burn and 20 Battle Instincts before using his S3, since if he wins a clash with it, he'll apply 10 more burn to self, which enables the final coin reuse on the enhanced S3. Anyhow, I won't go too much more in depth in his kits, since it's quite a lot to cover. Just when he subs in, he gets a head start on burn counts, and starts with Blood Flame. Compared to Sinclair, Heathcliff of course has strong egos to use. Again, I'm going to bring up Holiday. Only this time, the man can actually set himself on fire more reliably. This is actually rather relevant this time. Now we only need to make sure the enemy has a buff of some kind, and we're golden for plenty of potency amp. Aside from that, we can use Binds, since he houses the 2 more common sins in this composition, being Gluttony and Wrath. All of that said, when both these roosters are on fire, they'll be dishing out the lion's share of our damage. Heathcliff is a little more solid for the longer fights in comparison, but both of them can majorly contribute once conditions are met. Regarding the man on the grill, we've got Firefist Gregor. He keeps the burn count healthy, and otherwise just hits really hard. His kit is really straightforward, with little to no micro required, and is just an auto-include and burn at this point. It's impossible to go wrong with our grill master here. As for most other builds, unfortunately, his egos don't stretch really far. Unbrilliant Glory is great, but again, that one is a limited affair. It also gets fueled almost purely through other sinners' deaths. As for door security, we've got Malodus. I know we're passing up Dark Flame here, and while fielding Magic Bullet would be amazing for burn damage, we're mostly here to fulfill conditionals rather than build around the team killer. They provide haste to the fastest on Gluttony Resin. In this case, it'll either be Sync Don or Yo Heathcliff. Sync Dawn stands to benefit a fair bit in this case, fixing her to going earlier and applying defense down more consistently for everyone else. Aside from that, we do have enough Rupture applications to take advantage of the 10% extra damage. If she ever hits the field somehow, we're going to be keeping the Magic Bullet in the back pockets. If it needs to go off, we'll have plenty of resources and resonance to stack it up, and fire off an Execution Bullet if required. Reasonably, she could replace Lu-ish in terms of subbing in too, since by the time at least 2 Sinners kick the bucket, there'll be a lot of burn built up on most bosses to take advantage of. As a back pocket option, Mao Otis can help us finish fights if required. If our wait staff aren't capable of handling the dining hall, we can send in security to clean up after them. Next, we're going to want to look at the Dubious duo working the kitchen. First is Enkop Grosshammer Mersaltz. His support passive is the funny kind of conditional we're going to want on a team that is actively trying to kill itself or otherwise reduce its HP below half. For a measly free RAF resonance, we're going to be giving one of our dying Sinners the ability to fight harder and die a little slower. This will be relevant on 4 of our on-field boys. Notably, Faust will benefit from this to explode more brilliantly with the added attack power. Meanwhile, the Roosters will benefit greatly with their skills due to the number of coins taking advantage of the attack power. Last, Yi-Sung will die kinda slower, but his S3 does scale off of losing HP too. Setting him off with one last hurrah isn't the worst way for him to go either. As for the weirder of the duo, we're looking at the man in the hazmat suits. Jacob Hongers. This guy's passive can serve a few roles. 1. He can sustain any of our more berserker-minded units. They'll be healing 10% of their HP every turn after they're injected. Quite powerful if anything. 2. He can prolong Faust's explosive demise if need be. There will be just shy of a final explosion conditional of 90% missing HP, since 1 HP plus 10% is annoyingly over the threshold. Finally 3. He can execute units for us from the backline. If we play to lowering specific Sinners' HP, we can ensure the ampules always land on those Sinners. In this particular case, we can use it to kill Faust early or kill Yi-Sung as required. This gives us a backup for killing our seasoning, as Yi-Sung in unfocused encounters can be rather stubborn and may just refuse to kick the bucket properly. Unfortunately, this death does happen at turn starts, leaving us short a Sinner for a turn. This puts us on the back foot a little, but considering our lineup, some of our IDs fight better when on the back foot regardless. Essentially, this crooked chef is also working the HR department, firing employees or otherwise rostering overtime. With all the staff out of the way, we can discuss play patterns. This one's going to be rather unique due to needing Sinners to die and rotate in to take advantages of their entry bonuses. First, we're going to want to be smart with our deployment order. Anyone who dies grants their slots to the substituting ally. Since that ally will likely need some babying or build up, we're going to want to deploy Faust earlier rather than later. Same with Yi-Sung. In this regard, I'd recommend Faust followed by Yi-Sung. Yo Sinclair, Don, Firefist, then either of the fielded Lus. We can then place Heathcliff in backup and pick between either Otis or Ishmael, depending on what we may need to close out the encounter. If it's high single target and amazing clashing, we can consider Ishmael. Otherwise, Otis may be able to Dark Flame a group if set up correctly, or execute a target through Dark Flame spam. Starting out, we're going to want to preheat the fryer. This means using an S2 on Faust turn 1. If we miss that, we're going to be real slow until we get one. Not necessarily bad enough to warrant a reset, but if we want her online as fast as possible, we really need her to pull one off. From there, we want her to spam out S1s until she reaches at least 23 burn, and then detonate at 30 for all the benefits we're after. In the meantime, we want to prepare the seasoning and the chicken. Lance and Yi-Sung will want to either use his S3 or counter for Fairy Lure, and likewise use the counter or S3 for Sinclair. Aside from that, we'll be wanting to activate Sinner passives with the rest of front of house staff. Faust and Yi-Sung come first, meaning we'll be wanting free Gluttony and free Wrath if possible. Between the two Lus, Gregor, and Sync East Don, we've got a few patterns that can get that working. Yi-Sung and Sinclair potentially locked into Gluttony, we only need an S1 from Yoroshu or Don to have free Gluttony ready almost immediately. For Wrath, Gregor should have it at least 50% of the time, Yoroshu or Don should also have access to it, and Rodya can easily get it out too. We're going to want to lock these resources up and not use them until both the relevant IDs have otherwise managed to die. Otherwise, their deaths will provide little to nothing to write home about. Past there, we can build up some E.G.O.s while looking at angles for 2 Sinners to die. 4th Match Flame and Indicant's Trial are both Wrath and Pride heavy, meaning we can fish for those if possible. Faust can output some Pride alongside Rodya and Don, while the rest of the others can focus on additional Wrath and Gluttony. When both our Sinners eventually pop, whether through natural means or Honger's HR violations, we can start substituting in units and getting those online. We can also begin popping E.G.O.s to stim further game plans. Here is where Red Sheet can be utilized. On the turn after Yi-Sung dies, we should have more than enough resources to fuel this E.G.O, and Don has ways of ramping up haste. We can all but guarantee this going first. Hitting a 6 Gluttony res, we can guarantee the maximum value out of this E.G.O and pump forward some quick bursts of ruptured damage, in addition to the burn we would have otherwise put out. Red Sheet's passive will also grant Dawn further ways of inflicting defense down and stim up everyone else's damage. From there, we rely on the Poultry to satisfy guests, the waitstaff to accommodate their clashing needs, and of course the restaurant to burn down and take everyone with it. Plus, to summarize, preheat the oven, season and prepare the chicken. Once primed, fire up the grill and finish the chicken, and have waitstaff serve. Accommodate to guests' needs and provide seconds and thirds if needed. If any rowdier guests can't be contained by the waitstaff, send in security to finish the job instead. Oh, and if anyone is caught slacking off, commit a few HR violations to give them overtime or have them replaced on the spot. Once all that is done, we'll have some quality kungpow chicken and some very satisfied guests. See, hospitality is easy. You just need to have the right pieces to put everything together. In all seriousness though, this build was just a weird fever dream that I figured after slamming my head against the wall to get LCE Faust to function. And really, there's a lot of effort. You needed a few more safeguards to make her particularly useful. Some quality of life would have gone a long way. Having stagger bars at all makes her troublesome to use, since if the enemy has unbreakable coins or ever wins a clash, she's gonna get staggered hard, and likely die without popping off her S3. The burn count limitations are a pain to micromanage at times. You could really use a bit more count to help it stay consistent. And most annoying of all, she can't even fuel 9.2 on her own. It's like the one burn ego she has. With the amount of potency she puts out, it'd be a damn good one to be able to use. Regardless, designing a composition around her limitations was fun to do. She's not a heavy hitter, neither does she supply any crazy amount of utility compared to more dedicated supports, but at least she can set things on fire, clash half decently, and go out with a bang before letting others pick up the pieces. Oh, and she just dies to bleed. Forgot about that. Real annoying, that one. If she wins a clash, she can just die to bloody bleed. Anyway, thanks for watching. I swear the next one won't be anywhere near as deranged. Let me know below what other IDs you'd like to see a deeper dive into in the future. The day after this video goes out, I'll be streaming Lobcorp with viewer nuggets. If you'd like for a nugget of your own in the playthrough, go join up in the Discord and either drop a name or your preferred customizations and I'll add you to the list. You can also choose some preferred E.G.O. gear if you'd like. All that said, if you enjoyed the video and would like to see more like it, hit the like and subscribe buttons below. It takes us more places than you'd think. Thanks for watching.